Hi, I'm Wakafa and welcome to your weekly dose of unicorn fart. This is my first video podcast series. I'm so excited to share how energy works, how it affects us in all aspects of our lives. I will cover both the negative as well as the positives of energy. This is to bring more awareness so you can fully step into the wholeness of all that you are, which will help you navigate your life path better. It will take the blinkers off, but also explain why they were there in the first place and how they may have been there for lifetimes. And it will help you have better heart discernment so you can live your true heart potential and be the creator of your life. Starting off, a bit about me. I'm a quantum energy healer. I have the ability to see both the positive and the negative in the light and darkness. We are the light and darkness and so much more. I do this through angelic universal regression alchemy, hypnosis healing, or aura for short. In the healing, I am the bridge that connects you to your higher self. We then go on a journey visiting past or future lives for your highest healing. I also do Reiki angelic alchemy healing, RA for short, where I clear and rebalance your energy, body and field. You can find out all this on www.lightwithin.online. I'll give you a brief overview of my journey to this point, so it may give you some idea about who I am and give you the context for my insights and how I see it in the energies. So here goes. About 3 years ago, in 2009, I was on holiday in Dubai, and at the time I was working in the pharmaceutical industry as a sales rep. I had an incident where I fainted and banged my head. I had severe whiplash, my neck was stiff and painful. Luckily, a childhood friend of mine was working out there and she was also a Reiki practitioner. She gave me a 30-minute session, and in that session, I felt heat release from my neck, and after the session, I was 90% better, and this absolutely blew my mind, and I couldn't deny what I had experienced. So that opened up my interest into the energy world. I began to consume all the books I could get my hands on, and back then there was only one shelf in Waterstones. Now there's a whole section on esoteric, spiritual stuff. I started doing courses and researching to get more information. I couldn't understand why this service wasn't on the NHS. I found out later such services are offered to cancer patients and those with severe health conditions. At the time I thought it's something new that our world hadn't seen before. How very naive of me. The other significant thing that happened was meeting my husband in 2012. The year before, I had done a 3-day course on heart-centered meditations and connecting to Source, God, through my heart. For the first time, I experienced unconditional love. I felt an abundance of love in my heart, and this was pretty significant. I'd not felt this much love ever, and partially due to my upbringing, which may have had an influence. My parents were immigrants, and this country can be a harsh place for immigrants of colour to come to. Life was hard, incredibly hard. I was born and brought up in Newcastle, and racism back then was horrendous. We also lost a sibling that completely broke my parents and the siblings' world, and to be frank, I don't think they've healed from it. I come from a culture where pain isn't talked about and there's no communication. A lot of that pain is suppressed, and it's exactly what I felt growing up, suppressed. And for years I found it hard to express myself, talk about difficult things, and I'd get seasonal tonsillitis, and my parents, with all that they had experienced, still did amazingly well in bringing us up. And now, as a mother, I truly appreciate that on another level. So love really wasn't expressed in words, more in action, by making sure we were clothed and fed. And on top of that, I had the added issue of colorism to deal with in the family. So I never felt like I was someone who you could love because I didn't fit the mold. And I know this is very common in Bengali culture. I still hear these comments from random Bengali people. You're so dark, I didn't think you were Bangladeshi. It's normalized and the vast majority don't see it as an issue or see the damage caused by it. I'm constantly told to ignore it or brush it off. That's the culture. So hopefully that gives you a sense of my environment and what's perhaps my foundation in shaping me. So back to the heart-centered meditation. After this course, I would meditate and focus on feeling love in my heart. I would imagine what I would feel with my future partner. Then a year later, after setting the intention it was time to find the guy and get married, I met my husband-to-be, an Englishman who was living on the other side of the world in China. We met via Facebook, and when we met, my heart chakra burst open. It was the same feeling I had experienced that weekend doing the heart-centered meditation. We met within 6 months of meeting, and this is the shortened and less romantic version. A lot happened in the first 3 weeks of just emailing back and forth and then meeting face to face. So maybe another episode I'll cover how I manifested this in more detail. But the third significant thing that happened was the pandemic. March 2020, when the world flipped on its head and nothing made sense. I felt so much fear every time I left the house. It was palatable. It was such a stark contrast to leaving my flat, and it felt like I was stepping into another reality. Worst of all, my abilities seemed to be blocked, causing depression and anxiety. The Black Lives protest then kicked off all over the world. I couldn't believe that this was all coming to light. I had started 3 years ago to look into white supremacy and how it was affecting me, my life, work, and relationship. And this to me was true enlightenment. It felt like the veil had been lifted, but I sensed another energy and I felt some sort of backlash would follow. So all this made me question the world we were living in. I realized this wasn't a level playing field and that I wasn't seeing the full picture. I began to think and feel like we were in a construct. So COVID's kicked off, Black Lives protest is lifting this veil we've been living under, and I can feel I'm blocked, but can't see what it is. It was like I was trying to see beyond the blocks. I couldn't see it, but I was certainly feeling and sensing it, a bit like Neo in the Matrix. Luckily, a friend of mine told me about Rising Phoenix Aurora. She was the only one talking about shields, protection, and boundaries. The only one I had come across talking about the Matrix, the false construct. So she was also talking about a lot more. So go check her out. You can find her on YouTube under Rising Phoenix Aurora. I got a lot of information on the Matrix through her, and I began to understand and see how it was operating. I plunged myself into relearning and deconstructing everything I thought I knew. I went down rabbit holes and questioned the very, very fabric of existence. I thought I'd already done this with the previous energy healing modality, but with this, it seemed to take it to another level, a global level. I learned that the constructs were happening on a global level, and what happens at those levels directly affects us. There are systems set up to keep the masses asleep and programmed in unhealthy ways. We're being controlled and manipulated in so many ways by the false matrix because we are the energy source. This will become clearer as we continue. Please do not step into fear. I share this so you can begin to see everything in its entirety, so you can claim back your power, your love light, take onus of your life and navigate the systems we live in. So I also began to understand through sessions I had that these constructs or systems exist in energy and spiritualism. And that is where it started for me, when I came across Layla Saad through a friend who talked about gaslighting and spiritualism. Her book on white supremacy was an eye-opener. Get the book, you'll learn so much. It made me start to see where this sat in me. So the reason my abilities were blocked and not working was that the whole energy module I had learned was another system. It'd been channeled by someone who was still seeing the world from under the veil. So she wasn't seeing everything. So I was now experiencing something beyond their false construct, and I could feel it. The healing modality couldn't and wouldn't explain what was happening because it was happening outside of that construct, outside of white privilege and entitlement, which are all part of the false matrix. I'll cover this in more detail, in more depth when I talk about sabotage. So I started to work through and understand white supremacy. I started to sense certain things would happen, like having a conversation with my husband, and I'd get triggered. My heart would start beating. I wouldn't understand why I was in fight or flight mode. They were difficult conversations around white supremacy, and he was willing to listen and learn. He's not somebody who sits in his ego. So I started to realize that this was in the energies and it existed there. And depending on how much you're invested in these energies, it's harder to disconnect from them. And you can disconnect from them, and hopefully this will become clearer. I felt this was all very energetic, and everything I started to feel showed me where and how it was lying in the energy field. I'll explain further when we talk about the matrix. So the journey's been profound since March 2021. I have completed both my Aura and Ra certifications, and have had the honor of having sessions where information and activations for the clients have happened that have truly amazed me. And I've shared with you all this so it can give you some context in how and why energy awareness is important. It has taken the best part of 2 years from having Ra and Aura sessions, and it has helped me gain a certain perspective around what is happening in 3D and how it is helping me navigate the systems we live in now. I'm seeing improvements in areas of my life. I've seen significant shifts in myself. I am being more loving. The warrior energy will always be there, but the integration is happening. It's not either or anymore. I'm seeing shifts in my life, things we as a family have wanted for a long time. Better heart connection, less sabotage, finances flowing and working together better. And I've started meeting people who resonate with me on the heart level. I'm learning to live life on purpose and in my organic flow. In summary, I've covered why it's important to activate your love light and what happened when it happened to me, and also being aware in the systems we live in, which I'll talk more about when I cover the matrix in the 4th episode. We know also energy healing can have a direct effect on health. In the next episode, I'll talk more about shielding, protection, and boundaries. And if you have any questions or queries on what I've just covered, please do let me know. And I'm more than happy to expand on certain things a bit more. I hope this was informative, and I look forward to hearing from you. So, my infinite love, and see you next week when I cover shielding, protection, and boundaries.